Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of The Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and with me today I have an old friend of mine. I should say a longtime friend instead of an old friend.
That's all right, I'm old.
Her name is Avril Geus, and Avril is one of the people in this world that I envy because she was so lucky to have been born and raised in our town of East Hampton. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what it was like to be here. So Avril?
Here I am.
Yes, it's up now. I want to hear something about you. Tell us about you.
Well, like everybody else who lived here all their lives, I was born in Southampton Hospital. And when I was 5, I went to kindergarten and continued on through in the East Hampton school system. And in those days, there was only one school, which is now called the middle school. And then I went to Skidmore College. And after that, I didn't want to live in East Hampton anymore because I thought this was dull and very boring. And so I went to California and lived in California working for the Sierra Club. Do you know what that is? That's a hiking.
Of course I know. I'm a member of the Sierra Club.
Hiking, fishing, not fishing, hiking, mountain climbing organization.
Well, it's also a club that is very environmentally.
Oh yeah, it was founded by John Muir. Anyway, I worked there in the Sierra Club for about a year, and then I moved north to Eureka, California, way up on the border of
I wonder
Oregon.
if anybody knows there's a place called Eureka.
Oh yes, it's a fairly good-sized town, and very fishing, very ocean-oriented. Beautiful place, right really almost in the heart of the redwoods. That was an interesting experience. And I worked for a radio station there. Then I came home and worked for the East Hampton Star, and then I went back again and worked for another radio station in Medford, Oregon, where they grow all the fruit, where Harry and David Bear Creek Orchards.
Oh, really?
And I worked there. And then I moved eastward to Alturas, California. Now that was an interesting experience because that was all ranch country with lots of cows and horses and cowboys, and I married one.
You married a man I deeply loved, as a matter of fact.
And he was a dear man. Anyway, we were married in May, and our house burned down in November. So we had to move. We moved away from the ranch and moved to Portland, Oregon, which is a great city, the Rose City, beautiful place. And after several years, I had both children. I had my 2 children there. And then after several years, we moved back here, came back to East Hampton.
I remember Ed telling me that at one point you said, I want to go home.
I want to go home. It was the year that everybody seemed to be killing everybody. Martin Luther King was assassinated, Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and I thought the end of the world was coming, and I just wanted to get out someplace. I wanted to go someplace where I knew people and where I felt safe.
Safe. I know. I remember that period of time, and it was a very unsettling and anxious time
it was awful.
in our lives.
Yeah, it was. It was very bad. Well, anyway, so we moved back east, came back to East Hampton, and got settled. And I think I want to tell you a little bit about growing up here rather than my later life. Maybe you'll ask me later, and I'll tell you about Home Sweet Home.
Okay. Tell me about growing up here, because I just envy anybody who had the opportunity to grow up here, because I know I was in Jamesport, which is on the North Shore, when I was a mere slip of a girl. And I know how, I remember the moment that I went down to the water, put my hand in the water and said, this is for me. And I became devoted to Long Island after that.
Well, I think my favorite years to remember, which sounds a bit strange, but my favorite years were during the war, during World War II. It was a time that was so different, and it will never come again, I hope, but it was so different from anything we know today. There were deprivations, but nothing that we couldn't cope with. There were, for example, my father took the family car and put it in the barn, and it stayed there all during the war until it was totally out of style. Nobody wanted to ride in that car in 1945. But we all rode bicycles everywhere. If I had to go downtown and do some shopping for my mother, I went on a bicycle. I rode my bicycle to school. Everybody rode bicycles.
And it was safe to ride your
bicycle.
bicycle?
Oh, it was totally safe. Yeah, everything was safe here. And in fact, I don't think very many people ever got around to locking their doors. It was just that kind of a town. It was Mayberry. It was just like Mayberry. Everybody knew everybody. I knew practically every kid in the school. And in the summers, we would all get together. For example, the Catholic Church, the Holy Trinity's parking lot now, that was a playground for us.
Oh, really?
And that was where we played baseball every single night after dinner during the summertime. It was where we all gathered. It was a time when I think the most important buildings in town for me were Guildhall, which my parents were members of and did a great deal there, and the library. Those were my two favorite buildings.
They're still my two favorite buildings.
There you go.
I usher at Guildhall.
We were so lucky
Guildhall.
to have those buildings given by Mrs. Woodhouse.
Oh, really? I didn't know
that.
Yeah,
one of the great donors here in East Hampton was Mrs. Woodhouse. She also gave the beautiful nature trail, which was another place that we had a lot of fun in. And I was just sick when I came back here to live and found that vandals had destroyed the nature trail. They had destroyed all the red lacquered bridges, all the many bridges in the nature trail, just all gone, everything gone. They had taken, I don't know how they did it, but they just ruined the whole place. And now the only thing you know about the nature trail is the ducks floating around there. But there were no ducks when I was there. It was just a wonderful place to walk through. And I earned a Girl Scout badge for painting flowers in the nature trail. It was just full of wildflowers and beautiful. Anyway, I have some pictures here, if you'd like to see them.
Yes, she's going to show them now. There's one.
Okay, those were all the children in my class that we all started at kindergarten together and went through to high school together. And most of them are gone now. And this is a good illustration of what winter used to look like here.
Even in the Bronx, we did this.
we had a lot of snow in the wintertime, and we also had a lot of ice, so we all ice skated constantly, all the time. And that is a birthday party, and those are all the kids in the neighborhood all gathered around.
Now, that's a very small amount of kids. Was that was your class size that small?
No, this isn't a class. These are neighbors. My brother is in there, and there were 3 kids that lived on another street there. Our neighbors run across the street are there. They were just neighborhood kids, our gang, so to speak. That's our Girl Scout troop. We started out in 2nd or 3rd grade as brownies, and we were still meeting every Wednesday as Girl Scouts when we were 18.
Wow.
When we graduated from high school. And you see the woman standing in the back. That was Gwen Taylor, and she was wonderful. We loved her, just like our mothers. she'd been with us for so long, and she really kept her eye on all of us, and she dreamed up great things for us to do. And here I am, ready to take off for Wainscott. This is a picture I included because I used to go riding my bicycle to Wainscott at least once a week in the summertime. And sometimes I'd stay overnight. I had a friend who had a tent, and we'd stay and sleep over in the tent. And Wainscott was just such a wonderful change from East Hampton.
Wow.
All the farms and
Wow.
the families were also welcoming. And this is one from younger years. I think I was about 6 or 7 here. The church had a Children's Day in June, and we would learn poetry or get up and speak in church and this sort of thing. And if you did a good job, you got a geranium. So you can see
I see your geranium. You must
see
have
our
done a
2
good job.
geraniums there. My brother and I were sitting on the front porch there. And this is a play that we were all in, Cinderella. Something was going on all the time in East Hampton. There was always a play to be in, or here we were all dressed up. This was a parade, and the man standing there with the horse is Mr. Mr. Hartwell. Wonderful man. He used to give me a ride home from school every day. I'd wait for him on the corner of Main Street where 1770 House is, and he would pick me up with his horse and wagon, and he would bring me home.
Wow, so you really were driving in a horse and wagon?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, during the war, where is he going to get any gas for a car? So it was one of those, it was just a matter of convenience.
Wow.
But he was such a nice man. And he had, 3 girls, I think it was, and 2 boys. A very nice family. The girls and I used to walk to school together because they lived right around the corner from where I was.
So you have certainly seen a great deal of change here.
Not all good. I have to tell you, Phyllis, I'm not fond of big houses. I think that it's a waste of money and a waste of good materials when we have such a housing shortage in this town, and all people think about is money, money, money. There is just no housing for people of ordinary means, ordinary people, and they desperately need housing here. And they don't want to move into a condominium, they want a house. But who can afford $3 million for one of these
I actually
houses?
passed by some of those big houses, and I really want to say to them, are you nuts?
Yeah, they are. They're nuts to
who
build
wants a
these
house
places.
like
Nobody,
that?
but nobody needs it. But you wait. If we all live long enough, those houses are going to be coming down. Those will be torn down. And because that's what happened to the big estate houses built in the 1920s. And then the 1930s, the Depression came, and no one could afford those houses anymore. And down they came. They were all torn down. And so what we see now, we have a few left on the dunes, but not many, not many. And what I never could understand is why somebody would build a big house on the dunes and then want to put in a pool. Does that make any sense to you?
No, because I don't believe in pools anyway.
I think that some of the stuff that goes on around here now is just so foolish. It's people from New York with a lot of money, and they really don't know how to use our town or live in the country. They don't know what it was like to enjoy just in their surroundings. East Hampton is a beautiful place, but why ruin it with a bunch of horrible houses?
Well, you got me on that one, because I certainly do agree. I remember you also talking about how they would move the cows up towards springs.
Oh yeah, all over town. That's one of the big changes that has happened. I hadn't thought about that. But it's true, when I was growing up, and especially during the war, we had so many dairies in town. There was a big dairy in Amagansett. East Hampton had 3 or 4. Montauk had no dairies. There was a family that lived there that worked with an East Hampton dairy. of course, Waynescott was full of farms. It was all farms, all potato farms, and some of them had livestock. But, for example, we were just an ordinary family, but we had a cow in the back lot. It was just, part of living here.
What?
We all had animals, yeah.
A cow? In your
We had sometimes two, if there was a calf. And we had, my father would milk the cow every morning and every night. And I remember him standing by the back door in the wintertime, looking out of the door, and it was snowing. And he would stand there and he'd always say, the snow, oh, 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 because he had to go out to milk the cow.
Oh,
But
wow.
we also had pigs, and we had chickens, and my father took it into his head at one point to raise some pigeons. I don't know why, but he built a pigeon house on top of the barn. Oh, we had, animals.
Another word for pigeon is squab.
Yeah, well, they all sort of vanished. No, I remember a few of them up there, but that we used to take the chickens up there and push them out through the hole so they'd fly down to the ground.
God. Leave it to a kid.
We had a great time. There was always something to do when we were kids. We always had great times, great times. I really get annoyed with kids today saying, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do. What are they talking about? There's tons of things to do. If you don't play baseball, you'll get a group together and sing, or go to the library, or put on a play. The girl who lived across the street from me and I put out a newspaper one summer when I was about, 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
And we ran it around the neighborhood and charged everybody 10 cents for a copy.
Wow.
And then one summer, our group on Buell's Lane and in that area, we had a fair. And all summer we worked on that fair. And we made $30. Wow.
And $30 in those days.
In those days was a lot of money.
You bet.
And my
Yeah.
mother was horrified that we were going to take that money and all spend it on ice cream. And that was when they were building the new addition to the library. And she insisted that we give that money to the library for their new building, which was probably a nice thing, because now in the Long Island room, there's a plaque on the wall, if you know where to look, and it has all of our names on it.
Really?
Yeah, that a big donation was given by the children of Buell's Lane.
I'm going to look for it.
Yeah, there it is. So
Wow.
we were really annoyed at the time that we
But
couldn't
it
go
would
out
be Avril Dayton, right?
Yeah,
Not
right,
Geus.
right, and all of the kids' names. We
Yeah.
worked on the fair.
And so how does it feel now to see these enormous changes that have occurred here?
Big changes? I don't know. I don't really think about it that much. I get annoyed driving down the street. The traffic in the summer is horrendous.
Oh my
and I
God.
think something has to be done about it. I'm all for putting parking lots in the spare acreage there up the airport and making people take buses in East Hampton if they want to come as tourists. I don't think they ought to be allowed to ride through town and clog up our parking lots. I think we ought to maybe charge them at Shinnecock Canal. So
You
many
know,
people can come through on the East End,
Well,
and that's
the
it.
truth is that you are right. I mean, I know that traveling from where I live in Springs to LTV to
Yeah.
record, I have to allow, and I would say, at tops, if I get behind a car, I'm like, because I like to go on 3 Mile High because then I pass the water and I can
And it's
scream at
so
the water
beautiful.
to warm up. As I go on, I know that I could probably go on Springs Fireplace and it would be a little bit faster, but I prefer that route.
Yeah.
And then I will say to you that in the wintertime, I'm here in 26, 27 minutes. In the summer times, I have to allow 45 to 50 minutes, almost an hour,
Yeah.
to go the same distance. And it's unbelievable.
Maybe
It's-
we should all get bicycles again.
Well, Well, it would be quite a ride from
Yes, it
my
would
house
be. It would be a ride.
to LTV.
It would be a ride.
But the truth is that the traffic is very difficult to deal with, and it's having its impact upon the quality of our life.
Oh, definitely.
Between
definitely.
that and the planes overhead in the airport.
I live sort of near the airport, and I must say, I'm used to planes. I'm not helicopters, which almost take my roof off when they go by, but just plain planes don't bother me that much. Not like traffic. It just looks like, to me, in the summertime, traffic is just like insects. They're just crawling all over us, and it's just not a fun thing to deal with.
So how does it feel to be here in this town and see so much of the quality of the kind of life that you lived?
Well, I'm not leaving. I know that a lot of people have left for North Carolina or South Carolina. So many people from East Hampton, because it's expensive to live here and it's a lot cheaper to live in the South. But I am not going anywhere as if I can help it, because this is my home and always has been, and I'll be doggone if these people who are rude, who don't know how to behave when they're out here and building these awful houses, come out and think that we're just a bunch of clowns. Too bad, too bad. I'm staying.
I'm glad to hear that, because you know what, I'm staying too. I'm not going anywhere. As long as that bay is there where I can swim every day, that's all that matters to me.
I have to hand it to you, because I could not swim every single day. You swim late too.
I swim, my last swim this year was November 4th.
I can't believe it. It must have been freezing cold.
It is freezing cold. Yeah, you know what, you kind of get used to it. Besides, I don't want to give it up. That's the problem. I'm the first one in and the last one out.
When do you start swimming?
I start usually mid-April to about that time.
Mid-April, can you imagine?
It's very cold, and it's mostly just a jump in, but where I go, I have a secret little place I go in
You
Maidstone
mean,
Park.
is it warmer?
It is slightly warmer because it's at the end,
Oh.
so I can have a nicer swim there, and it's really heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Really heaven on earth.
If you look for it, you can find it.
I mean, the town has so much to offer.
It certainly does. It certainly does. But I think it always has, and that's why so many people have come here. I think about the very famous people who were here in the mid-19th century. Do many people know about Civil War heroes who were here in East Hampton?
No.
Yeah. Not Sheridan, Sherman had family here, and he used to come and stay.
Sherman?
Yeah, General.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a new one on
And
me.
we've had people who were running for president. That's an interesting topic, but let's not get into that because that could take hours.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
So you sort of get used to, knowing that there are people other than movie stars who have been here. I remember when Hedy Lamarr was very much here, going to the LVIS fair and
Hedy Lamarr?
and taking part in the fashion shows.
You know,
and
she
stuff.
was an extremely bright woman.
She certainly was. She was a scientist.
Yes, indeed.
She wasn't.
Besides being absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I
you know, and one
I
of the
often
great
wondered
beauties of all
how
time.
some people get so lucky to have so many gifts.
She-
No, she was an amazing person.
Wow.
Yeah, Clark Gable was another one who was here a lot.
Clark Gable? Are you kidding?
He used
I
to
used to
stay-
say, every time I see Gone with the Wind, I'd say to myself, if he was alive now I'd be out in L.A. haunting him.
He always stayed at the 1770 house.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah, and he would go hunting on Gardiner's Island.
Oh,
Yeah.
April, I'm
Oh, you can go through. I mean, and count them. There's so many of these people who made a name for themselves who would come here, and a lot of them liked it because nobody bothered them. Paul Newman was another one. who was
gosh.
here and became very friendly. He liked racing cars, and so he liked the Bridgehampton races.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we should do a program on them sometime.
Holy mackerel. I mean, I'm still back at Clark Gable. I mean, I just can't get over that. I dearly
And
love
of course, Robert Montgomery had a house here,
him. Really?
and we always called it the Pink House. It was by Hook Pond. You go
Really?
right past it when you go to Wyborg's Beach. Yeah.
Well, I
Very
am
interesting people.
amazed. Avril, I'm going to have tea with you one of these days soon. And you're going to
Anytime.
tell me all about
Anytime.
this kind of stuff because this is really amazing. I still am saying to myself, Clark Gable.
Oh, really?
Clark Gable? Here in East Hampton?
I'm sure there are lots of others that I haven't even thought about, but you pick this stuff up, you know. Read Dan's papers. Dan always has a lot of celebrities in his paper.
Well, Avril, I must say it has been a really joy to talk to you because you are just so full of the life and times of East Hampton.
Well, thank you.
And there's no place in the world that I love more than East Hampton.
We should talk about places in East Hampton that are very special. There are some places that have a lot of history.
That's another show, my dear.
And I don't want to see them spoiled.
Okay, so we'll do that another time.
Great,
Thank you
Phyllis.
so much for coming. I've really...
My pleasure.
Clark Gable.
I've made Phyllis's day.
You bet, you bet. Holy mackerel, that is really amazing. Really, really amazing.